As we step into 2025, one thing is clear: de-dollarization is not stopping, it's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and establish themselves as a global economic superpower. Their secret weapon? Gold. In fact, China resumed buying gold. And you know what's even more telling? They underreport their buy. Doesn't it make you wonder why? They recognize its global value and its ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, reliable, and it's immune to economic manipulation. China and other BRICS countries want to be prepared, they just don't want it to be known. But this isn't about nations, it's about you. In a world of shifting economic power, gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty. That's why Noble Gold Investments can help you secure your financial future with gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. And with a qualified account, receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind. Hi, and welcome to this week's weekly wrap-up for Friday, February 7th, 2025. Thanks as always for tuning in. As usual, we have much to cover, so let's get started. As you know, this week's shows, we had Nick Veniamin, Ian Farrar, Amy Venner, and David Sandoval, co-owners of Purium, and good brother and team member Joe Williams, where we had some fruitful conversations. Next week, we have a powerhouse week of schedule and lineup in terms of quality of guests and as well as quantity of podcasts. We have Derek Johnson, David Mahoney, good friend there. Andy Scheckman makes his return, CEO of Miles Franklin, Alistair McLeod. We have a great addition. We have Major General Valley that you know about, but he's also been gracious enough to add to the cachet. Famous General McInerney will be joining that conversation. Very excited to see how that turns out. Good friend SG Anon, as well as good mensch Eli Weber. Now on to the headlines. Tacoma Police Chief Avery Moore has announced his resignation effective February 3rd from the force and is moving away from law enforcement altogether. Moore submitted his resignation to City Manager Elizabeth Pauly on Tuesday, saying that he is moving on to the next chapter of his life after working in law enforcement for the past 35 years. CEO Brian Nicole said 30% of the company's food and beverage items would be eliminated by September as part of its Back to Starbucks plan. Starbucks CEO is shaking up the coffee chain's notably intricate menu, pledging to eliminate about 1/3 of its food and beverage items by cutting back on the highly customized drinks that it's been accustomed and known for. There are the 5 top companies that are set to close with hundreds of locations nationwide in 2025, and they are as follows: Target, Macy's, Kohl's, JCPenney, Walgreens, Gap, and Best Buy. A South Carolina man convicted of murder is scheduled to be put to death by lethal injection on Friday. The first execution in the United States this year. Marion Bowman Jr., 44, was sentenced to death in 2002 for the murder of the previous year of Candy Martin, 21, a high school friend. Excuse me. Bankruptcy filings didn't end with the close of 2024. Several trucking companies have already filed Chapter 11 petitions within the first month of 2025. Wind Transportation Holdings on January 10th filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in order to restructure its debts after losing an arbitration judgment that awarded over $32 million to a transportation services subcontractor known as Getz Transportation. Finally, major trucking and logistics company Flame Freight on January 24th filed for Chapter 11 protection, seeking to reorganize its business. The Auburn, Washington-based shipping company filed its petition in the U.S. bankruptcy court in the Western District of Washington in Seattle, listing $1 million to $10 million assets and liabilities. More than 1,100 employees at the EPA received notice this week that they were deemed to be on probationary status and warned that they could be fired immediately, according to an email obtained by CNN. Probationary employees receiving the email have been working at the agency for less than a year. The emails began to go out late Wednesday afternoon, according to an EPA union official. SoftBank Group and ChatGPT maker OpenAI plan to team up to offer AI services, initially targeting Japanese businesses to lay the groundwork for potential expansion worldwide. SoftBank Group CEO Masayoshi Son said on Monday that the company will assign 1,000 employees this year to the joint venture, SB OpenAI Japan, in order to kickstart its sales and engineering work. 4 states introduced bills allowing murder charges for women who get abortions. That would include Indiana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and South Carolina, that have bills that would change the state's criminal codes on homicides. Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said on Friday on Fox News that she'll target sanctuary city mayors who defy federal immigration laws. During an appearance on the Ingram Angle on Fox, Noem was asked if the administration is prepared to impose consequences on non-compliant officials who say they'll thwart federal authority. She said, quote unquote, no one is above the law. And of course we will. But that's up to President Trump. He gives us a direction. I don't sit there and make a decision on what I will do. I simply follow the law. U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, again, Kristi Noem, has decided to end temporary protection for around 350,000 Venezuelans who sought refuge in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security source confirmed to News Nation. Noem revoked one of two temporary protected status designations for Venezuela, which the previous administration had placed due to extreme poverty, economic issues, as well as political crises in the country. Elon Musk said that the Trump administration would close the U.S. Agency for International Development, known as USAID, as employees were told to stay home on Monday amid uncertainty about its future. Musk's comments came amid turmoil after two top security officials were placed on leave. The agency's website has not worked since Saturday. Ecuador will apply a 27% tariff on Mexican goods to ensure fair treatment on Ecuadorian producers. President Daniel Noboa said on Monday in a post on X, he said he is open to signing a free trade deal with Mexico, but not when there is abuse, though did not elaborate. The president said that until a free trade deal is struck, a 27% tariff will apply to goods imported from Mexico. Layoffs and other workforce reductions are continuing in 2025 following 2 years of significant job cuts across tech, media, finance, manufacturing, retail, and energy. While the reasons for slimming staff vary, the cost-cutting measures are coming amid a backdrop of technological change. In a recent World Economic Forum survey, 41% of companies worldwide say they are expected to reduce their workforces over the next 5 years because of the rise of AI. Companies such as CNN, Dropbox, IBM have previously announced job cuts related to AI. Tech jobs in big data, fintech, and AI are meanwhile expected to double by 2030, according to the WEF. Wright, CEO of Denver-based Liberty Energy, has been one of the industry's loudest voices against efforts to fight climate change. He says more fossil fuel production can lift people out of poverty around the globe and has promised to help President Trump unleash energy security and prosperity. The Senate approved his nomination 59-38. 8 Democrats, including both senators from Wright's home state of Colorado, voted in favor. The centerpiece of President Trump's energy policy is drill, baby, drill, and he has pledged to dismantle what he calls Democrats' Green New Scam in favor of boosting production of fossil fuels such as oil, natural gas, and coal that emit planet-warming greenhouse gases. President Trump on Monday made good on a campaign promise by signing an executive order in order to establish the first ever U.S. sovereign wealth fund. He then said that the fund could be used to keep TikTok operating in the U.S., though he did not offer any further details. Sovereign wealth funds are investment funds owned by a national government as a way to stabilize the country's economy through diversified investments, as well as to generate wealth for future generations. GM is laying off roughly half its employees who remain at its discontinued Cruise robotaxi business. The plans come 2 months after GM said it would no longer fund Cruise after spending more than $10 billion on the RoboTrade unit since acquiring it in 2016. GM cited the increasingly competitive robotaxi market, capital allocation priorities, and the considerable time and resources necessary to grow the business as reasons for its ultimate decision. U.S. Postal Service has temporarily stopped accepting inbound parcels from China and Hong Kong. According to Wired, it's already causing huge problems with e-commerce shipments to the U.S. USPS. As we enter 2025, de-dollarization is accelerating. China and BRICS nations are reducing their dependence on the U.S. dollar, and their secret weapon? Gold. China's buying gold, quietly underreporting their purchases. Why? Because they know gold's global value, its ability to withstand economic shocks, and its immunity to manipulation. This isn't just about nations, it's about you. Gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty. Noble Gold Investments can help you secure your financial future with gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com now, and with a qualified account, receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins. Remember, there's a risk of investment, and there's no guarantee of any kind. Posted the notice on its website announcing that the suspension will be in place until further notice. As Wired notes, the international parcel suspension is a direct result of President Trump's administration order to end import tax exemption for small packages shipped into the U.S. worth less than $800. The administration has also imposed an additional 10% tariff on goods imported from China. And in an addendum note, USPS has temporarily lifted the stopping of inbound packages for the time being. Singer and songwriter Joy Villa, well known for her controversial attire at Grammy Award shows, strutted the red carpet once again on Sunday in a gown that served up a very strong message. Villa was spotted at the 67th Annual Grammy Awards in a gold dress and necklace dispersed with the images of the Doge Shiba Inu dog meme, a necklace featuring his face, and a red hat that read, "The hat stays on." "I was kind of a walking meme," Villa told Fox News. "Obviously, I'm a MAGA girl, and MAGA and crypto are starting to bridge the gap." Bill was also very clear to point out that the MAGA movement is bigger than President Trump and that Jesus is her Lord, in whom she worships above all other movements, but it allows her to be a tour de force on the red carpet platform for Christ, above all, as her battleground. Argentina will withdraw from the WHO, according to a presidential spokesperson who cited profound differences within the UN Health Agency. President Javier Milei told the country's foreign minister to initiate the withdrawal, spokesperson Manuel Adomi said during a press conference to the AP. Workday, the Bay Area human capital management tech giant, announced on Wednesday it would cut 1,750 jobs, or 8.5% of its workforce. CEO Carl Eschenbach explained that the cuts were part of a restructuring effort to position the Pleasanton company to embrace AI. This marks the second round of layoffs in just 1 year, following a 3% reduction in February of last year. In an open letter to employees, Eschenbach described the move as necessary in order to adapt to a rapidly changing business landscape whereby AI is seen as a key driver to future growth. The Office of Personnel Management CFO, who manages more than $1 trillion in funds, was pushed out this week. Two sources with knowledge to the situation told CNN. Her departure is the latest in a series of top career officials who have been removed from their jobs atop federal agencies by President Trump's political appointees working in coordination with Elon Musk's Doge. Forever 21, the go-to store for America's teenagers for many decades, is weighing the bankruptcy issue as it battles huge debts. Forever 21 is facing a series of problems that have been plaguing profitability for many years. These include increased competition from physical store rivals, as well as online-only upstairs, problems making sure it got its stock levels right and losing touch with what shoppers ultimately want. Shops like H&M, Zara, also common in American malls, used to be Forever 21's main competition in the fast fashion sector. Trump's second-term live updates: no soldiers from U.S. needed in Gaza, President Trump says, as his second administration continued its swift increasing of the federal government in American foreign policy. The president issued a stunning proposal saying the U.S. would take over the Gaza Strip, level the site, and ultimately rebuild it. President Trump on Thursday gave remarks at the annual National Prayer Breakfast, after which he was meeting with House Republicans about his budget, tax cuts, and later on was scheduled to sign additional executive orders. And that concludes the headlines for this week. Now let's go to the precious metals and Brent crude. As of the time of this broadcast, gold is up $2,870.80, approaching the 2,900 mark. Silver up slightly, $32.47. Brent crude down to $74.35. And now to the resignations. Robert Santos, who emphasized inclusivity and outreach to overlooked communities, has decided to resign as director of the U.S. Census Bureau midway through his 5-year term in the midst of planning for the 2030 census, which will determine political power and federal funding nationwide for another decade to come. Andrea Mitchell is retiring her MSNBC anchor chair this Friday after nearly 17 years at the desk. The longtime host of Andrea Mitchell Reports first revealed in October that The Daily Show had planned to end its run after the presidential inauguration, though a specific date for the transition was not announced at that time. Salesforce Inc. named Robin Washington, a tech industry veteran who has been on Salesforce board since 2013, to a newly created role of the CFO and operations officer. Chief Operating Officer Brian Milham, who has been at Salesforce for 25 years, will step down from his role on May 1st and become an advisor, the company said Wednesday on a statement. And that concludes the resignations. Now, something we're going to do a little bit differently this week, since we sort of emptied the proverbial vault of the RV updates and discussion this week with the Nick Benyamin and Joe Williams podcasts, which, by the way, we highly recommend you watch multiple times. In the course of these podcasts, two or three major sticking points came up that we would like to address for some of our audience who's asked questions in lieu of an RV report. They are as follows. Somebody had some questions about investing in the stock market and their concerns of its viability. We were talking about after the crash, once again, after the good guys have overtaken it. And it goes like this: investing in the stock market and its viability after the crash, utilizing Stellar blockchain, also known as XLM, will be used in the X payment system. Remember that X marks the spot. It's being implemented and probably going to be a part of the new sovereign wealth fund as well, which, as we mentioned on the Joe Williams podcast, is ultimately, we believe, code for Nasara. Number two, someone addressed concerns about the $25,000 dinar note being exchanged at the banks for $25. That would be considered a LOP or a redenomination. That is not going to happen, as we've said before, but for the benefit of this, I'm assuming, new audience member, we want to stress this with ultimate clarity. In the country of Iraq, the 3 zeros would be removed. And here in America, the 3 zeros would remain on the actual note. Again, that's not going to happen because that would defeat the purpose of Iraq going international, passing all the important laws and tariffs, bringing out the small notes and coins, removing the corruption within the proxies and militias, not to mention the scores of countries like Germany, for example, and Italy, who have literally invested hundreds of millions of dollars into Iraq in order to improve their infrastructure, their power grid, their fresh water supply, as well as their overall quality of life. The banks worldwide as well, and the country of Iraq, as well as outside the world here in America, will honor those notes at face value on the new international exchange rate when it comes out publicly from the private sector, which, as we've said many times, including on the podcast with Joe Williams, means AKA the Ministry of Planning. So there will be no redenomination or a lot. They will honor it at face value on the new international rate. Period. End of story. Third and lastly, there were some questions about the QFS fund or us having a digital wallet. In 2020, Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary at the time, passively mentioned that in the future, every American citizen would have a digital wallet. As some of you may be aware, Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Mirecki has mentioned on our podcast several times that once we are restored to a constitutional republic this year, we will all have our own QSF fund or digital wallet. They are very much one and the same. What our team ultimately believes is that the FedNow system, the bad guys meant for our harm, has been internally restructured by President Trump in the good side in order to be used as part of the new sovereign wealth fund. So there's your RV updates there accordingly and answering the questions. Now to our weekly commentary. Over the course of our time on this channel, we've seen many of you make strident changes and improvements in terms of changing your attitudinal mindset and approaches, and that's a great thing. However, we're still seeing comments about what will the rates of the currencies and the Zim bonds be, concerns about so many people saying so many different things on the items on different channels. Some of you still clearly need to change your mindset. You will never get clarity and peace trying to get solutions from people, even including us. The question isn't what will the rates be or when. The only question that remains and that matters is what are your heart's true motivations, and can the Lord Jesus trust you? Because if he can, the sky's the limit. And the more generous that you're going to be, the more he will give to you. You can never outrun, outgive, or outthink God, period. And that concludes this weekly wrap up. As always, as updates and breaking news come, we will bring it to you as summarily as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend. Take care. God bless. Goodbye for now.